term you'll often hear in the virtual reality space is presence. You'll encounter it everywhere, in conversation, in marketing collateral, in blogs and news articles. But what you might not realize is that sometimes presence and immersion are used interchangeably, and sometimes even incorrectly. And honestly, when I first started out, I more than likely contributed to this problem because I know that I used to use the terms presence and immersion without knowing their full definitions. I found it really kind of confusing and difficult to pinpoint their exact definitions through extrapolating them from conversation or media, and I really wish I would have clarified my understanding of these terms. But here we are, and here's this video where I share my findings to hopefully save you time in your own research. So let's get to it. In 2016, Nilsson, Nordahl, and Serafin published a review stating that presence is a person's subjective experience when interacting within virtual environments. This includes actually feeling like you're present within a space, even though physically you might be located elsewhere. So the feeling of presence is believing that what you're experiencing virtually is real, even though it isn't. And I will actually caveat that and say physically real, because David Chalmers in his book Reality Plus makes a great argument that what we experience within virtual reality is just as real as what we experience in the physical world, and we can actually consider this genuine reality. But I digress. When you put on a headset and the CGI projects into your eyes a completely different scenery all around you, and you begin to feel present within that location, even though physically you might be sitting on your couch, that is presence. So presence is defined as the sense of being in an environment. Now, you might have also heard the term telepresence, and some folks do use these two terms interchangeably. In 1980, Marvin Minsky, the founder of MIT's Artificial Intelligence Lab, coined the term telepresence. He published an article in Omni magazine titled Telepresence, and in that article, he described it as the sensation of being there, really by means of a communication medium. I feel like Sheridan's article in 1992 does the best job of differentiating between the terms presence and telepresence. He considers presence as the natural perception of an environment and telepresence as the mediated perception of an environment. So presence is the generic perception of being in a computer simulated environment, even though you're not physically there. And telepresence, when it specifically involves operating or manipulating virtual objects or acting on the environment in some way. Honestly, I wouldn't worry too much about the differences between these two terms, because the International Society for Presence Research released a comprehensive explication of the concept of presence. And it states, presence, parentheses, a shortened version of the term telepresence, is a psychological state or subjective perception in which, even though part or all of an individual's current experience is generated by and or filtered through human-made technology, part or all of the individual's perception fails to accurately acknowledge the role of the technology in the experience. So that's how presence is defined. Even though it's somewhat interesting to distinguish between these two terms conceptually, or at least their origins, in practice, I'd go as far as to say that this distinction doesn't really matter all that much, especially when it comes to instructional design. Because if you're designing for behavior change using virtual reality, that will almost always require the learner to act on the environment, either by manipulating virtual objects or talking to virtual humans. It's about promoting this realism and prompting the feeling of having been somewhere in that spatial scenery with those virtual objects or with those virtual humans, and practicing and reinforcing those behaviors that we're trying to develop automaticity for. Creating a sense of presence is critical for any virtual reality learning experience. And interestingly enough, the greater sense of immersion that your virtual reality experience can provide, the greater potential it has for inducing a sense of presence. If you want to learn more about immersion, you'll want to check out my video where I explain everything you need to know about immersion in virtual reality. I hope this video was helpful for you. If you want to learn more about other XR terms you might hear in the industry, comment them down below, and please be sure to like and subscribe. I'm going to be doing more of these videos in hopes to make VR and XR research more accessible and digestible for everyone, so stay tuned and thanks for watching.